Jack, thank you for joining me today on Pop Culture Unplugged.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Exciting times, my friend. How's your life been like the last 2 weeks now with two episodes dropped?
Dude, it's crazy. It's so exciting because this is kind of like this is the biggest thing I've ever been in, and seeing all this stuff on social media on how excited people are for it and how much people love it. It's it's so exciting. It's surreal, honestly. Yeah.
Have you slept at all? When I spoke to Clara a few days ago, she doesn't think she slept for a few days.
It's honestly I have had trouble sleeping. It's like just so I'm like so like hyped all the time because I'm like, what's my next opportunity? Am I gonna when's my next interview? Because there's always something to do, like concerning Welcome to Derry. We
Mm.
thought that the fun would like end once the shooting stopped and the premiere ended, but it just kept going.
And the fans are loving Phil.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see that the jokes hit and they landed.
Right, perfect. We're gonna jump more into the series in a few minutes, but let's talk about the journey of this too. Like, how did this happen to you? Were you working with somebody that you like, hey, we might have a role for you? How did this happen?
This audition kind of came out of nowhere, just as auditions do. It was a self-tape, December 2022, I think, and 2023. Thank you. My mom just corrected me. Um, and yeah, and then I didn't hear back for a couple months. Kind of forgot about it. Moved on to the next thing, and then a while later, like early 2024, we heard back. And they're like, "We want you to be Phil." And I had already auditioned for Phil, and then Teddy, and then Phil again, and then several other characters, and then Teddy, and then Phil. It was a ton of auditions, and then they finally said, we want you to be Phil." And I was crazy excited because at the time it just seemed like a coming of age teenage drama or some sci-fi thing because the thing they gave us was the scene in the school where I'm talking about planes and stuff and aliens coming
Yeah.
to Earth. And then we found out that this project they were calling Fairview was actually Welcome to Derry. That just blew my mind. Yeah.
What was the description you were given for Phil when you first auditioned? Do you remember?
Phil, yeah, I actually remember really nicely because I was like, well, that's not difficult at all. He's full of manic energy. He's a very sarcastic guy, and he's always up here, and he's always excited, and he's hyped about every single thing he's talking about. And what if this could happen? And aliens, and aliens, and aliens, and like that's his whole personality. And so that was so much fun to play because I was just honestly just being myself, just a little more toned up.
So you booked the role, like first episode, like you waste no time, like what was your reaction, reading that the opening script? How did you visualize Phil fitting into this world?
Well, once I read his lines, and the script has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Once I read his lines, I knew, okay, Phil, he's the funny guy. He's the guy that he's there. So when things get scary, he says the thing, and you're like, all right, like come on, Phil, and like it tones down the scariness because of how silly this guy is, and I like what I like about Phil is that he's not even trying to be funny. He's
Yeah.
just he's kind of maybe he's a little annoying at times, and he can be really like he complains and stuff, but that little bit of humanity that he brings, I think really like adds a little bit of levity and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
In the first episode, we mentioned also you see there's a lot of you and Susie, which is your sister also. Like, did you find that easy because you guys are siblings to work with?
Yeah, there was definitely it was nice to always have a friendly face on set that wasn't just an adult behind the camera.
Yeah.
It was, Matilda's my little sister, and she was playing Susie, who's also my little sister. So that chemistry between siblings can sometimes be difficult to portray on screen because it's something so like specific and special. But Matilda playing my little sister was just perfect because there's always already that like that like teasing rapport, and
Yeah.
she was so mature about the whole thing as an 8-year old because she was 8 at the time on set. She could hang with the older actors and stuff, and didn't feel like she was just tagging along. It felt like she was part of the cast.
Did you give her any advice, being the young one?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I guess she was kind of like Jack, back off. Andy's here, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but from a big brother standpoint, I was trying to protect her because it's quite a scary show, and
Yeah.
that scene in the theater, which was the first scene I shot with her, everything that was happening on stage was like a rough CGI cut, but it was still Miles, who plays Maddie, on screen saying all these horrible things, and there was this mutant baby that popped out, and they showed us concept stuff, and she went into Andy's office the first time we met, and there was like concept art of all the horrible monsters that are gonna show up all over the walls that he forgot to cover up, and that I really did not want her to get freaked out because then it wouldn't have been fun anymore. But she was super cool about the whole thing, and it was an honor. It was really, really fun to work with her.
You mentioned earlier about Phil, with like his humor and everything too. As you as an actor, how did you balance the humor, but at the same time, you have a horror also as well?
Yeah, I talked with my parents a lot about this, and Phil is a he's a kind of a conspiracy theorist,
Yeah.
and because of that, he can kind of says a lot of wacky stuff sometimes and get these crazy theories that often lean towards breasts. That's one of them where he's really really obsessed with that particular part of the human body, and Phil, because he's such a conspiracy theorist, I was thinking, what if he doesn't actually want those things? Like he doesn't actually believe in what he's saying, but he's just putting it out there as a what if.
Mm.
And his like deepest fear is that all these what ifs are just reality, and he's living in that reality, and that reality's coming to get him.
You mentioned the conspiracy, like, or the alien stuff like that. Do you think he's doing that to protect himself a little bit too? Turning that into
Yeah,
like
I
a
think
fascination?
yeah, he it's almost a coping mechanism because he doesn't want to admit to himself that his whole life there's been weird things that go on in
Yeah.
Derry. You know, friends of his, classmates, peers disappearing, and he doesn't want to admit that to himself. And Maddie ran away because he had a rough home life. Uh, he doesn't want to admit to himself that he is living in Derry,
Mm.
the one of the most terrifying places in the world to live in. And I think, yeah, that's one of denial is one of a big character trait of his because if he denies it, then he can't get him. But eventually, he does.
Uh, I like how in episode 2, we have like that chilling sequence when the kids are realizing, something's living in under the surfaces and everything. And like, what was the day on set for you for that those scenes?
Um, for like the cereal boxes,
Yeah.
that was a photo shoot that I think we took while we were shooting maybe a standpipe scene or something. So there was a segment. I think it was that like it was the Lily Maddie like, romance scene, and they
Okay.
just brought us to the side and they give us a spoonful of Elmer's glue and cornflakes, and they're like smile at the camera, and they was tweaks. They're like, we want you. Some of them we did like smiling at the camera, mouths open and stuff, and some of them they wanted us to get like smile, and then our like the smiles drop away into like a terrified scream and stuff, and that was cool because it was like my initiation into being one of Pennywise's illusions.
Mhm. Also, we noticed you with your character in episode 2. He's become more like loyal, but also like he's got courage happening too. Like what do you think defines him in these first two episodes?
I think that once pardon my French, but once the shit hits the fan and he's really obviously when Susie falls between the seats and he doesn't notice and he keeps going, that's not a great look for him. But I think deep down he's really trying to protect his little sister and his best friend who it doesn't end well for him, but he's really like deep down I think Phil's a good guy and he wants to do what's right. It's just that deep-seated fear that's lived in him all of his life. The one of the side effects of living in Derry, that's really holds him back from like being a confident and a good person.
How would you describe Phil's journey this season? No spoilers, just like how would you describe it though?
I would say that Phil's journey, he starts us out as, kind of a coward and, masks his fear in witty jokes and ridiculous conspiracy theories. But I think eventually he accepts the fact that Maddie's death obviously wasn't directly correlated to him, but we kind of loaded the gun. It just happened to be Pennywise that pulled the trigger, and we really should have been better friends. And it might be a little bit our fault that he ran away that night. That was just his experience with Lily was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Hmm. This takes place in the 60s. What's your favorite part about this?
that was just an incredible experience all around because I think on the train to Toronto where we were shooting,
Okay.
they told us, "Oh yeah, Jack," because at the time I had really long hair. Like, "Jack, we're gonna have to cut your hair." And I was like, "You know what? Anything for a part." And I really like the short hair. I've kept it ever since. And every time I go to the barber, I'm like, "Oh yeah, give me a '60s cut," because I really enjoyed doing a period piece. The clothes were fantastic. Like it was so cool because everybody, all the extras were done up in '60s clothes and makeup and hair, and the sets were incredible.
Mm,
And I think one of the best examples of that so far is the school scene where they had like 80 to 100 extras or something crazy like
wow.
that, all dressed and like styled in '60s style. And that was a
Mm,
you really felt that you were in 1962 Derry, Maine, America, you know?
yeah. So how would you say now, like, you guys, there's a group of you, there's tension that's building up in the first two episodes also. Like, where do you think Phil stands in that group?
Phil obviously does not want it to be real. Phil is like,
Yeah.
it is just a figment of our imagination. It is like the aliens. It's way beyond ourselves. He stands on the it's not real side, and he's trying to keep us grounded in reality because the second we accept that new reality comes for us. And you know how like Pennywise, the only way to kill it is to face it and like be
Yeah.
like, no, you're just a clown. Your fears cannot control me. Well, Phil refuses to face his fears, and that's one of his major character flaws.
Definitely. You mentioned Andy earlier. What's the one best advice he gave you about Phil, playing Phil and in the series also?
Man, that's tough because Andy was such a terrific director to work with. He
Yeah.
was always kept shenanigans going on set. It barely even felt like we were working, honestly, because obviously at the end of the day we always got the take done and it was perfect and always ended up great. But he would, fool around. He had that bugle that he would blow every time the take was just right, and he um honestly like it's kind of corny and but he told me to just be myself because I think that he felt that I could portray Phil just by being myself,
Mm,
and I really appreciated that because it gave me a lot of um like wiggle room in the character and got let me just have fun on set, and that's really the most important part because if you're not having fun in a role, then you shouldn't be doing the role, you know.
definitely. I mentioned earlier, I spoke to Claire a few days ago. How would you describe Phil and Lily together? The
Uh,
chemistry.
at first, he really does not like her because she messes with his non-existent social
Yeah.
reputation. Because I think Phil, he kind of thinks he's a big shot, quite a ladies' man. He is not, and he's like, Looney Lily Bainbridge is, gonna. If I'm seen hanging out with her, seen by who we don't know, if I'm seen hanging out with her, it'll bring me down a few rungs on the social ladder, and but then I think they really end up being friends, and I think that he even comes to respect her just because she's got that that emotional vulnerability that he doesn't
Mm,
have. So I think they balance each other nice, the two characters.
mm. Is there somebody that you didn't have a lot of scenes with that if we see another season, hoping you have more of a bigger scene with?
Um, well, I don't want to spoil anything because there's
Right.
episodes I haven't come out with yet. Sorry. But all the I mean, obviously, all the kids cast, we
Yeah.
hung out all the time, even off set. So that's why the chemistry is so real on screen. And I'd love to work with every single one of them again. And also the adult cast, who uh, in Derry, there's two different storylines. There's the adults, the military
Yeah.
guys, Charlotte Hanlon and whatnot, and then there's the kids, and they live very different experiences with Pennywise. So I really like to have more scenes with Javon and
Yeah.
Taylor and Chris and all of them.
Would Jack be friends with Phil?
I think so. Yeah, I think they'd argue a lot just based on how opposites attract and if they're similar they repel each other. But I think they'd be a fantastic duo.
Would you give any advice to Phil?
I'd probably tell him to keep your mouth shut and just like stop saying stuff that gets you in trouble. And my parents are dancing because that's what they say to me all the time. And but I would definitely, yeah, I'll tell him to keep his mouth shut
Yeah.
and just be nice to the the pretty girl that's asking for your help.
There
Yeah.
you go. If you could pitch a Phil-centric like spin-off, what would you want to call it?
Oh, that's tough, man. That's I didn't even think of that, but that could be really funny. Um, Probably have to be a pun on his name, like Malkin a difference. Nope, that's stupid. That's so stupid. Um, like fill that hole in your heart, but spelled like
There you go.
he's like Adventures of Phil,
Yeah,
ladies
Yeah.
man or something like
yeah.
that. Something goofy.
Right. So what do you hope like the audience gets out of this series? Because you know you have like the old school fans that are tuning in to watch this also. What do you hope they get out
I
of this?
hope they are. I hope the shock factor really, really gets them. I hope they're scared, shitless. Um, and I hope that they get, laughs from all the funny characters out there. Because in in Welcome to Derry, obviously it's terrifying, but there is a lot of comedy too, and
Mm,
you know, I think that's really gonna help with the scary part. And yeah, I would just say enjoy it because it's a hell of a ride.
that's right. And I told you the fans are loving Phil.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Definitely. Last question, what's one thing of pop culture that you're crazy about right now that you're obsessed with?
Um, I think what James Gunn is doing with the DCU, completely different genre, but I think what James Gunn and eventually Andy Muschietti is going to be doing with the DCU, I think what they're doing a great job, and I think they're on a fantastic path, and I'd really like to be a part of that universe.
Amazing. Jack, I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes today. We got to get you back on, man. This was a great conversation, and hopefully we see more of you down the road.
I hope so too, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
So